Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Cappella Podcast. Today, we're joined by Sam Gardner, CEO and co-founder of Happypillar. Would you want to tell them a little bit more about Happypillar?
Yeah, definitely. So we are a digital therapeutic app for parents of small kids, and we coach parents on therapeutic tools that help manage their small kids' behavior and mental health, and really build relationships between parents and their kids. And we use AI and the expertise of clinical therapists to do that for parents.
That is so cool. So, Sam, how would you describe yourself? Like,
Ooh, myself.
yes,
Um,
yes.
that is a great question. Fast, loud, um, silly, and passionate. Those four.
Fast, loud, and silly and passionate.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It's oftentimes that you always hear the word CEO, and you never hear those descriptors right next to them either.
Probably not silly, but
Probably not silly, but I
we'll see how that shakes
but
out. So,
but that just shows that you know you don't have to fit one specific profile in order to be something that really does change the world. And I feel like something like Happy Pillar is definitely something that could help out parents and other families, right?
yeah, yeah, we think
Absolutely.
so too.
What, sorry?
We think so too.
Nice, nice. So what was the original idea behind Happy Pillar?
Yeah,
So,
so I'm happy to tell the story. So I have two kids. One of them is 4, the other is 1. And a little less than a year ago, I was really kind of at my wits' end with my 4-year-old. Everything I said to him was met with an argument or negotiation. He would have total full body tantrums and meltdowns over the tiniest things. Everything we needed to do in our lives together took about 10 times longer because of the just constant fighting. And then at the end, I would be so angry all day with him. And then at the end of the day, I would get into bed and sort of cry and remember how sweet he is and the sweet kid that I was missing and the sweet kid that I was kind of denying of a good parent. And I was feeling like I was so terrible at this. So I went to my pediatrician, and she recommended doing some play therapy with him. And she gave me a big packet of papers of local Austin play therapists, and I was a little overwhelmed because it was expensive and a lot to schedule. So I went to a friend of mine who happens to be a therapist, who's now actually a therapist on our team here at Happypillar. And I said, I don't know which of these therapists to go with or what program to do. And she recommended a kind of parent and child play therapy where a therapist teaches parents the skills of a play therapist. And the parent does those skills with their kid in a 5-minute therapeutic exercise every day with the coaching and guidance of a therapist. So I did that for a couple weeks, a couple months actually. And I still do it to this day. I do those techniques and tools, and it was so great. It changed our lives. His preschool teacher texted me, Winston has totally revolutionized and changed. It felt like magic. What I noticed in these sessions with my therapist was that she was listening to me talk to my kid and doing the therapeutic exercises. And then she was giving me feedback on exactly my verbalizations and how I'd spoken to him in almost exactly the way an NLP engine codes utterances in AI. So at the time I was working at a conversational AI startup that was an open source NLP provider. And one of my dearest friends at that company, Maddie Mantha, who's now my co-founder, and an expert in conversational AI, I kind of brought this concept to her. It wasn't even an idea. It was just like, hey, I'm doing this therapy. What this therapist is doing, this kind of is just like an NLU, some NLU data and an NLU labeling engine, right? And she was like, yeah, it pretty much is. And we were like, okay, I think we can make this as an app, both to share with parents so that they can do these therapeutic exercises with their kids, to share with therapists so that they can recommend it to families they work with or that they can't work with at the moment. And yeah, so we built it with the help of therapists who do this work. We built an NLP engine that labels a parent's utterances accurately to help them know what they need to say to their kid in these 5-minute exercises. And we also gamified it a little bit so parents can have fun doing it, because it's hard to be a parent But I think the biggest thing that I'm most excited about is how much it changed my life to do these exercises with my kid, even though sorry, I'm talking too much. I will stop in a second. But I was so certain when the therapist told me what I was supposed to do with him that this wouldn't work. It sounded, to be honest, kind of stupid and simple and ridiculous. And I was like, my kid is smarter than this and more complicated than this, and this is not going to fix him in any way. And yet I was proven completely wrong. It changed everything about his behavior. I kept looking at my partner saying, did he just like say, yes, okay, I'll go to bed and walk right upstairs? What after we did the treatment for about 3 weeks, he potty trained himself after 4 years of refusing. It was just like everything fell into place. And this type of therapeutic exercise is meditative. It builds connection. It, brings you together with your kid. There's nothing that could be bad about doing it, but the upsides are also tremendous. So that's how Happypillar was started.
Wonderful. And for context, NLP stands for natural language processing,
That's
right?
correct.
It's a specific branch of artificial intelligence and machine learning that deals with how words and structure within words and sentences, it's basically trying to teach computers everything about language.
Exactly
Um,
right. And
yes.
my co-founder is the machine learning expert of the two of us. She is a genius, brilliant, has, a ton of experience in conversational AI, really big deal in that world. And I am just a fan and a lover of her work and NLP in general. So yeah, I'm always excited to talk about it. But yeah, Isaac, that's exactly what it is.
Awesome. That is super cool. I'm very glad to hear that this is something that has been able to help you out with your own life, right?
Yeah.
And this is exactly right, like something that you saw a need and you saw it was a need from your own self and you decided to work on this, right? And decide to spread essentially the wealth and spread the knowledge to other parents and that is truly um, very altruistic, and I think it's very lovely to hear. Yeah.
I feel
So
also, I'm sure we all feel a lot of tenderness for these small kids who had the last, 2 or 3 years of their lives look a lot different than we all thought. And
mhm,
for us, it's 2 or 3 years of our lives. For them, it's like 50 to 100% of their lives
yeah,
have been in some sort of turmoil. So the parents need this, but also I think the kids of today really need it. They are embarking on a personhood that is definitely spiked with trauma. So giving them as
hmm,
many tools as we can to give them good lives feels super important to us.
absolutely. And can I ask a little bit more about how you guys leverage artificial intelligence in trying to, help with the therapeutic stuff? So
Yeah,
you
totally.
did say that there was a lot of these concepts were very familiar to you because it was just like a natural language processing thing, right?
Yes.
And so um, how exactly does Happy Pillar use this in its own like apps and
Yeah.
stuff?
So the way the therapeutic treatment works is that you spend 5 minutes a day playing with your kid. But you're not just playing with them, you're playing with them in a way that allows them to lead, to build mindfulness, to build connection. And in order to do that, you need to follow some kind of specific skills and ways of thinking that a play therapist would do when they are playing with their patients. So you're not replacing a play therapist, but you're learning the skills of one to implement them with your kid. And furthermore, you're not implementing them with your kid all day. That would be
Hmm.
really hard. And that's sort of the challenge of parenting is being the parent you want to be all day is just not possible. You're implementing them for 5 minutes a day. So during those 5 minutes, in order to let your child lead, you want to avoid making any suggestions or asking them any questions to avoid kind of redirecting how they want to lead the play. And you also want to avoid saying anything negative that might trip them up in their mind or giving them any commands. So you really want them to lead. So the first thing our AI engine does is it listens to the parent talking to the kid and identifies if you have been commanding them or asking them unnecessary questions, or saying anything that might be construed as negative or critical. Even if it's pretty tame, you want to try to avoid them in these therapeutic sessions. The more you avoid these things, and if you can get to 0 every time, the more effective the session will be. But you're avoiding all these things, and then you're wondering, what can I say during these exercises? And what you can say is something we've developed based on a lot of different therapeutic methods, and we call them the NICE skills. NICE is narrate, imitate, celebrate, and echo. So you want to narrate what your child is doing. You want to imitate their play, so play along with them. You want to celebrate behavior that you like seeing, even if it's super small. You want to show them that they get 5 minutes of feeling some celebration and encouragement. And then you want to echo back what they're saying. So if they say, I'm playing with a car, you say, you are playing with a car. But you don't just want to do those NICE skills like in general over the course of the 5 minutes. You want to hit all of them 10 times. That's what makes a therapeutic session as effective as it can be. And that's exactly what our therapist would do in our weekly sessions. She would tell us how many times we described or narrated his behavior. She'd say something like, you did 7, you're really supposed to try and get to 10. So Happypillar's technology does the same thing. It listens to your 5-minute play session with your kid. It scrubs out all the kids talking, all the personally identifiable information, and it looks just at what the parent says and makes sure you are narrating 10 times, celebrating 10 times, echoing back 10 times, and that you're not doing any suggestive or commanding sentences. And at the beginning, it's really hard to hit all those numbers and do all those things right, but you don't have to worry too much, because Happypillar also has a recommendation engine that looks at how you did in your session and says, hey, looks like you're struggling with this aspect of your sessions. Here's some extra training or an extra quiz or an extra practice, audio practice that you can do to get stronger at that skill. And then as you are able to start to do these sessions 5 minutes a day, hitting the 10, 10, 10 and 0, 0, 0, that's when you really see effective change in your kid.
That is so cool. It's essentially an entire therapy session inside of a box.
Yeah. So all of
That
the
is,
content was designed by our founding therapist. We have an amazing team of clinical advisors who serve on a clinical advisory board and look at all of our content and research to make sure it is all safe and up to date. And yeah, there are a lot of tools out there that we really love that match families with real telehealth therapists. We're not replacing that. We can be a complement to that. We can be for families who don't feel like therapy is really what they need right now, but they need something a little more like a headspace or a calm, but for kids. And yeah, so it's kind of like therapy in a box.
yeah, awesome. I mean, Capella has a very similar mission in some way where, we're not trying to replace parenting and all of that. We're trying to supplement and help parents in their entire mission of being a good parent. Um,
As a parent of new babies 2 times and hopefully a few more in my life, I know what it's like to not know at the beginning what each cry means and to feel like you're at your wit's end. I've tried everything. And how great would it be to not have to try everything before you get to the thing they want, and to be able to know what they want a little bit sooner and help them get relief sooner. I think that's so special.
Thank you. Yeah, we hope to, maybe make as much of an impact as Happy Pillar has. Um, uh,
Together, we're seeding the future generations to be healthy, healthily attached, happy kids.
yes, and that is the hope, right?
Yeah.
We're trying to use this kind of, new technology, and everyone, almost everyone has an access to a smartphone or to any device, right? And these devices are insanely powerful. And so
Truly.
you could do so much with them. And in our cases, it seems like we are essentially trying to help out parents with, small facets of maybe the entire parenting, timeline. But at the same time, these are very important and critical facets. And,
Yes.
and,
And one of
and,
the
and
hardest parts, or well, I've only been parenting for 5 years, but
mhm.
I will say those newborn days are definitely some of the hardest memories of mine, of my 5 years of parenting 1 to 2 kids. So yeah, a really
And
challenging time where parents really need the kind of support Cappella can give.
And that's what we hear all the time with different parents, right? It's always those first few months, or maybe up to the first few years, that are always the most difficult among every single child that they've had. And it makes sense, right? It's almost as if your child is, um, speaking a different language to you, because in some sense it is.
Yeah,
um,
it really is. It's their own language. They're really trying to communicate. And you don't know it yet. And it takes some time to learn your kid's language. And each kid is different too.
And much like how it takes some time to as well learn how to, properly, um, like you were saying with these, trying to not be as commanding, or letting your child, take lead
Lead.
in
Yeah.
these sessions, right? It's like trying to learn your child's language through some other more complex form, right?
Yeah.
It's not as easy as directly knowing maybe. What your child might want, but it's more along the lines of, um right, trying to find the best compromise
Yeah.
in some
Totally.
sense, right?
Yeah. Honestly, Happypillar is similar in that way that it helps you get to know what your child's language is. There's some research that our founding therapist showed us that children often expand upon their thoughts more when their sentences that they say are echoed back to them
Mm.
than they do if they had been asked a question. So one would think, and questions are super awesome, a great parenting tool. No one's knocking questions, but one might think that you learn more about your kid asking them questions and hearing their answers. But according to research, just echoing back what they say to you kind of encourages them to say more, explore, and explain more. And then you really get to know your kid a little better, because like when they're a newborn crying, age 2 to 7, they're kind of figuring out how to communicate who they are, their own language. And you need tools to help you learn it, just like you might have in the newborn days.
And of course, the research shows that children are very much still developing their personalities and stuff like that during these very critical ages. Um,
Definitely.
so, so they, so a lot of this help, and the apps that you've made, is very, very critical in trying to make sure that they live a very happy and successful life afterwards, especially with um, you know um, uh, communicating with their parents and stuff
Yeah,
like that.
totally. And in the future, when we have a little more time and energy, we'd like to build a kind of similar version of the Happypillar module that's for kids and their parents. We'd love to build one for couples. So listening to a 5-minute conversation between couples and pointing out, how people are talking to each other and how they're listening. And yeah, because we
Wonderful.
all deserve good relationships.
Absolutely, right? Because the parent and child dynamic is not the only relationship that matters in the world, of course,
That's
right?
true. Although you're reminding me of another piece of research that one of our research consultants brought to me, which was families who did this kind of parent-child play therapy with one parent and one child. The entire family reported stress levels to decrease. So not
Wow.
just the kid and the parent who were doing the treatment, but the siblings and the other parent.
Wow.
You were totally right. The kid and the parent is not the only relationship, but as far as Happypillar is concerned, this kind of therapeutic method is actually beneficial to the entire family, which is kind of mind blowing.
That
So,
is that is absolutely amazing. I mean, because it's like you're trying to get at the source of the problem, right?
yeah,
It seems to be at some point there might be some sort of strained relationship between parents and children, because of course you're trying to both of, but it's a weird way to say it, but both of you are trying to learn about each other,
totally.
right?
And we
E-
all often have competing goals. I need to get out the door for the day for work, and they want to spend more time eating their breakfast or exploring something that they found on a toy. And we have competing priorities, and it's sometimes hard for us to see the other side. It's hard for my 4-year-old to understand why I need to get him out to preschool so I can go to work. And it's definitely hard for me to see whatever it is he's caught up with that's causing him to procrastinate. I often fully ignore the fact that he has his own priorities, and he has things he wants to do. It doesn't always mean necessarily that he gets to have his way or that I get to have my way, but doing this kind of therapeutic treatment with him for 5 minutes a day has kind of freed up a part of my mind to notice more about what he's saying, what he's doing, what he's thinking, when he's being really good and I'm, maybe not even noticing. So yeah, we're learning each other's language and learning each other's needs.
One thing I will say, as I've been working with Apolline in Capella and stuff, is exactly that, where it's like I've been trying to um, notice and think about children and especially newborns as actual people,
Yeah.
because that's what they are.
Yeah.
A lot of times um, it's always like, okay, this is a newborn, right?
Right. We think
It's
of
like
them
a
as almost a
default
different
slate,
species.
right?
Yeah.
It's like you're taking care of a puppy almost
Yeah.
for the first few months,
But it's
and
actually a human and not a dog. And
exactly.
yeah, nope, I totally agree. And just for any parents out there listening, that gravity of the fact that you are shaping and affecting the entire lives of a human, like I see that, I get it. There's not one tool that's going to make us the best parent, but Capella in your newborn days and Happypillar from 2 to 7, and then more Happypillar for older kids, and all different tools. Like I highly recommend for parents, like don't go it alone. There is support out there. Go search for it, and you're not alone in that feeling of overwhelm. That it's a very grave thing to raise a human in the world. But tell them all parents who are listening, you're doing a great job.
And I'm sure everyone who's listening really appreciates that, because it's a tough job being a parent.
Yeah,
Um, it's not always fun and games, right?
yeah.
um,
There's a book out there. I hope I quote it properly, but I believe it's called "All Joy and No Fun." So it's definitely very wonderful, rewarding, and joyful, but it can be super challenging too.
and actually, this is, I think, a good transition point to maybe one of our last questions.
Yeah.
Um, if you had one thing to say to every single parent, um, right? Maybe a good piece of advice, maybe something that you could distribute to absolutely everyone. What would it be?
I think that my favorite thing to remind myself is that I am the best parent for my child, or my partner and I are the best parents for a child. So you are the best parent for their child, for your child. You are who they need. Yeah, it's so easy to think I'm so bad at this. I wish my kid had a better parent and a better life. But really, you are the best person for them.
That is very sweet. And I think it is very much true. Well, thank you so much, Sam.
Yeah, thank
Um,
you. I'm so
this was
excited to see what Capella does and uh, see all the kids of the future who have been positively affected by their parents getting to use Capella and Happypillar in their parent raising lives.
that I am very excited for that future. Hopefully, it's full of healthy and very well supported and you know people with good foundations come
Yeah,
out
I
of
love
this.
this. Healthy,
Right.
well-supported people with great foundation. That's what we're all building. So that's amazing.
Absolutely. Well,
Thanks
thank you
for
so
having
much,
me.
Sam. This is Sam, the CEO of Happy Pillar and co-founder as well. Go check them out. They have a wonderful therapeutic app that leverages AI and um, natural language processing in order to um, what was it again? In order to
For parents, yeah,
help out
and deliver
parents.
them the expertise of clinical therapists. And yeah, we're all in your corner, parents. So yeah, thanks, Isaac.
All right. Thank you so much.